You have lots of things to say compared to the first three films, so I'm feeling the vibe that you really like this movie.
SGC here with Vulcan, and we are back for The God of Lightning. And we are now halfway through Phase 1. Thor came out back in 2011, which came out a month before X-Men First Class.
And 2 months earlier than Captain America.
Right. It was directed by these people. And yeah, so just a little tidbit on the writers. It's kind of actually pretty funny. We have two writers who both worked on Thor and First Class. Mm-hmm. And then the third writer wrote Fantastic Four 2, Rise of the Silver Surfer, and then Thor, and then he comes back for Thor Dark World.
So he's been writing a bunch of superhero movies.
And again, I think I don't remember much. It's just, wow. That's my first one.
Again, like, do you remember watching it in the theater?
No.
Again, no. Because I do remember watching it in the theater, and before this movie came out, I didn't know what Thor is. But I know, like, there's a big universe of Thor.
I knew he was the dude with the hammer.
Like, but he has his helmet that he only wears in
the
beginning of the movie, but in the comic he wears it all the time.
It's funny because I feel like with Hollywood, they don't like headgear. Like, in all the movies that they're famous for their headgear, like Thor's helmet,
yeah,
or Power Rangers,
or even
Black Bolt,
Captain America's helmet.
Yeah, he takes it off
all the time.
Every time he gets.
I guess in film they always have that feeling of, oh, you need to see the character's emotions to be able to feel in your emotions.
I agree, but something like Power Rangers, I don't need to see their emotions when they're fighting.
The only one movie that I can remember that put it off with just the helmet on was Dread, like the new Dread movie.
It was amazing. Holy crap! If they took off his helmet, it'll be like, please don't.
No, that would be Stallone's Dread. Yeah, that was when a time where I don't think most audiences, including me, we don't know who Thor is. So, like,
that's true.
There's a very human perspective on what Thor is throughout the movie, because, you know, the whole movie kind of takes place on Earth, really.
And I think Chris Hemsworth was a no-name. If you actually are a diehard Chris Hemsworth fan, you would know that in 2009 he was in a little film called Star Trek, playing George Kirk.
He was there for a good 5 minutes in the opening of the movie.
That's pretty crazy for a first gig.
First screen credit, yeah.
Yeah, to play Kirk's dad. I think rewatching it now, like, recently someone asked, or like I told them that we're doing this thing.
Yeah.
And I told them where I was at, like, I just finished whatever movie. And they're like, so what's your favorite so far? And I have to say, on a story, structural sort of introduction origin film, like, I would say Thor is my favorite because it has so many layers of like narrative that they have to introduce, and it was such a tall order, but yet they established so many things. Like, we have Loki, who even today is considered one of the best villains, or the best villain
in MCU,
of the MCU. Yeah. And then we got Anthony Hopkins as an Odin, who's just like, whoa, the Allfather. Like I said, they were giving so many things. We have to introduce the worlds of, like, Asgard and the 9 realms, and then we have to do with Midgard, how did it work? How did Earth come connected to all this? Then we have finally an actual shield. Like, they finally showed up as an organization rather than one person group of
just Coulson walking around.
So now it's like, whoa, they're an actual organization. They're actually doing things. So I am rather impressed when I rewatch that this is what they try to pack in. And then you have different sort of action sequences too. Granted, they could have showcased more of their army, but I feel like ever since Asgard existed, their army doesn't do anything. It's never believable that they actually have an army. So how about you? What do you think?
You have lots of things to say compared to the first three films, so I'm feeling the vibe that you really like this movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's impressive because, like, Loki, like, it's just this classic story of, like, jealousy, but at the same time you have the classic story of, like, this proud man.
It's very Shakespearean, I would
Yeah,
say.
but it doesn't come off too Shakespearean at the same time, I feel. There's a lot of things happening in this film, and it's like all these classic stories, and it's not messy, it's not bloated. That was the word I was looking for. And I think that is pretty impressive.
To write off what you said, it's not my favorite Marvel movie in the first place, but I would say it's the most difficult one to make good. It's so easy to make Thor a really cheesy character because of his backstory, or like how serious the backstory is, but it's how jokingly, fantasized it is. It's basically, space Vikings.
Yeah.
If you think of it.
Well, I mean, like, they really saved themselves by saying, oh, it looks like magic because our science is just so much better than yours.
And the power struggle was really a highlight of this film. Not only set up for this movie, but if Loki wasn't as strong of a presence as a character in this movie, I don't think Avengers will be as good as it is.
No.
So, I would say this movie really sets up a very good villain vibe in Loki. How he's a counterpart of not only Thor, but, a counter hero. An anti-hero.
And you understand Loki more if you remember actually what he does in Thor when you're watching Avengers. Because I was watching this so back to back that when he was doing his stuff in Avengers, you remember like how he was with the Warriors 3 and Sif, and it's like him trying to be all innocent, and it's just like maybe a hint of like, oh, maybe this is his real self. But in Avengers, he's straight on evil and it's just like, I'm wrecking havoc on Earth and all that. But in Thor, there's still that like kiddish of like, I want to be king because I was raised by Odin telling me that I would be king one day. Random tidbit, Tom Hiddleston did audition for Thor.
Okay.
Which would have been very interesting if that panned out.
Well,
but I don't think it would have worked.
You probably have to work out like...
Yeah, I mean, that's the same thing as
program.
Cillian Murphy auditioning for Batman.
Yeah.
Like, he would have to bulk up a lot. I think the biggest surprise was Anthony Hopkins being in this film. I don't know. I think for me, Anthony Hopkins was big because I knew him for so many movies. Like Jeff Bridges and Mikey Rourke was less known to me, so I felt like for me, Anthony Hopkins was like, whoa, this is serious. And then later on, we got like freaking Robert Redford in Winter Soldier, and then we had Kate Blanchett in Ragnarok. It's like this big Academy Award winner, and then we have Natalie Portman, who's also
a great actress of his own with a cult of supporters.
And then you have Tom here, who I also didn't know.
Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah, I mean, he has a great resume now. For me personally, out of everybody, it was like Hopkins and Portman. That's who I knew as. But then like Hemsworth and Loki, so all the key players were relatively new. So I think you're more open to whatever they're doing. Because I feel like sometimes when you do have a huge, long resume, you're bogged down by expectation.
Again, like you're typecast. Oh, like, so when you're cast in this role, I expect you to be this kind of character.
Yeah.
Like, I really enjoyed the movie, and I don't remember much of the second half of the movie after Thor got thrown to Earth.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate how, even though it's cliche, like he's gonna learn his way to become a better person, or like avoid becoming a man. Yet, it's really structured in a way that is gonna fine line between too cheesy and
that's true.
Good.
Yeah.
So like, there were scenes that they were just flat out wanted to be funny, and there were also scenes that like he is really learning to be a better person.
It's like another.
Yeah, that's a definitely funny scene, and the scene where he went in to try to get his hammer in there.
Yeah.
That was a really emotional driven scene because he realized like he is unworthy of his hammer, which he used to own.
Yeah. Now that you brought that up, like how the hammer belonged to him, I sort of wish that in like the very beginning, it's sort of established that he sort of is given this hammer. Sort of wish they explained like Thor growing up rather than like the realms, because I think that's the weakest part about this movie was that it talked about all these realms, but we only go to
Earth and then
Asgard and Jotunheim.
Yep.
And then there's all these like what we have like the light elves and dark elves and the giants and all that stuff. Those are other realms. We go to dark elves in the second one, but I felt like as establishing Asgard, you have to establish the rest of the realms to make it feel like a real place, rather than, hey, we're just super sciencey and rich and gods. So that was what I remember when I first watched it. Now that I talk about it, the first impression was that it lacked that. I sort of wish there was less Earth in a sense. But
Which they did in Ragnarok.
Yeah, so that was great. So I felt like when you establish Asgard, like you establish all these realms, spend time in those realms. Because I felt like I would have liked it more if they built how like when Thor was young, he would like fight ogres and orcs and stuff, and then he'll like band up with the Warrior 3. Because that was the one thing. Warrior 3 was just there. Sif was there, and you can sort of see like she likes him, but it's like, who cares about these people?
Yeah, well, she's just only this friend zone girl with a bunch of like, her dude friends. So like Thor never saw her as.
Yeah, so I sort of established them as characters, which sucks because the rest of the other two don't establish them as characters at all. And then in Dark World, we get what I want, but then it's like I feel like it's too late.
You felt like they should have established more.
Yeah, because there's some
in
sequences
Thor.
in Dark World where I wish was in Thor. Like the sequence where they're pillaging and they're fighting back the Dark Elves because they're like pillaging villages, sort of that sort of stuff, but replace Dark Elves with like orcs. So you sort of see what do they do beside in that grand hall. Because I felt like Asgard is like all we do is just sit and eat and that's it.
I guess the most yelly scene is when I hear Thor yell at Odin, "You are no better than a fool." And it kind of cuts.
Was that before when he was being cast out?
No, he was on the brink of being cast out. He
oh,
said
yeah,
that,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then he got cast out because
right.
that's when Odin noticed, oh, you're not ready yet. But to me, that part I remember deliberately how it always cuts back to how Loki reacts to the whole situation, and his face is just kind of stoic, and you're not even sure if he's like, oh, going for Thor, supporting Thor, or he is.
Yeah, I noticed that we were watching it. I was like,
bad.
wow, like he actually had some kind of emotion. When I was watching it, I had the feeling like he was shocked that this was happening. Like, he wants this to happen, but it's more of like, oh my goodness, it's actually happening. Like, this is what I want, and it's happening. I don't know if I want this anymore, because he is my brother. And it's not even a dialogue. So I love that part, like, where it's just that one cut to him, and he has this like, expression, and then it cuts back, and he's vanished. My most memorable scene? I think it's when the Destroyer showed up.
It's called a Destroyer, right?
Yes.
Because it looks like a Power Ranger character or a villain.
Yeah.
In my memory.
Yeah, it does.
When it
It
showed
looks
up.
like that dude that's all red and has a metal face.
Yeah.
But anyways, I loved it when it landed and Coulson's like, it's just one of Stark's.
I'm not sure if you noticed, but this movie had lots of tilted shots. Like when the camera is not like level, it's tilted on an angle, and it kind of pans, and it's still on a tilted angle. So when people stand, you don't see them standing like straight.
Oh, now that you say, I remember. Yeah.
The tilted shots usually would express like the internal struggle of the character, but like in Thor, it's not really about the struggling. It's about sometimes the scene would open with the tilted shots.
Maybe it was just a style, because I don't think it reinforced any thematic reason.
Yeah.
Because especially if it was just on Asgard, I think that would have been more obvious.
Yeah. So that was really peculiar. I'm not really sure the meaning behind the tilted shots, but yes, I noticed it.
Well, I like the costume design. That was nice.
Yeah.
It's very different from what we have seen before, because everything else has been contemporary. So it was neat. That's why I always like. For all Thors, I've been very like, I don't care what I hear about it, I'm still gonna watch it just for the costumes and the sets, because it's always like different, and I always like. I think in general, I like productions who put time and money on like costumes. That's why I really love period movies, because everything they do. It's like they have to make it, they have to research, what have you, versus like a contemporary comedy where it's literally you can wear anything and shoot it.
Yeah.
I think when I first thought of Thor, I think he flew, but I never knew that he flew with his hammer. So it's hilarious how he keeps trolling it and he just like throws it and holds on.
Yeah, it was explained by Thor in Ragnarok.
Yeah.
But it was like a mockery.
Yeah. So this came out in the same year, a month before X-Men First Class.
Yes.
Do you remember
First Class?
Well, I remember First Class how I felt about it, but do you remember, like, did you compare it, or were you like...
I wasn't really comparing, because I do think they were in different universes.
That's true, but like, you're like, oh, which one was
X-Men First Class was an ensemble. Was an ensemble cast compared to this film which stars Chris Hemsworth as Thor. So to me, it's a different movie. There are two different movies. It was a pretty daring move to release two movies, like about two superheroes at the same time. I'm not talking about X-Men. I'm talking about Captain America and Thor.
Right.
Given they're both not sequels.
Feige was just really doing his job.
To push for Avengers.
Yeah.
I think, so far, the only weakest link, I would say, was Incredible Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
And besides that, I would say all movies were pretty on par, not just as superhero films, but as like character study films. Which,
Yeah. But I don't know. No one ever goes like, yeah, Thor was great. Like, I don't hear people say that. Or maybe I'm just not around those people. Thor is great from where it is. I mean, I wouldn't want to move it. I sort of wish Hulk looked better than not be just great. We are done here for the 4th episode of this 18-parter with Thor. We got some fantasy magic happening this time around. So join us next time for some World War II action. And that is all. 2 cameras or 3 without tripods. Later.